Hi. I think I don't have to introduce one of the most influential artists, designer and entrepreneur of our times. This video won't be a literal breakdown sneaker by sneaker between Adidas and Pharrel. It will go through the good and the bad, the hype and the bricks, and what worked and what really didn't. As it's known, this collaboration started in 2014.
The launch of our partnership with Adidas.
It wasn't called Humanrace yet. Still, this name will be relevant in the future. From the very beginning, Pharrel always worked and played around with colors, materials and patterns. The first collabs were almost all done on the Stan Smith silhouette. The most notorious, the solid pack, the tennis pack, and the polka dot pack. And from these three instances of collaboration, we can already see the identity of Pharrel brought into the sneaker world. Here, we were also introduced to Pharrel's equal logo that symbolizes equality. This can be interpreted as the signature of Pharrel into the upcoming collaborations. In 2015, other than the Jacquard pack, Pharrel released his most successful collaboration yet. Taking inspiration from the solid pack released the year before, he kind of did the same thing with the Superstars, where he released not only 3 colorways, but a grand total of 50. These obviously were game changers. If anyone remembers all the bright colorway in the early 2010s, you can understand why these were successful. The Superstar was also a very popular silhouette, and we arrive in 2016. In 2016, the sneaker world was taken by storm by Adidas themselves. The Boost technology was everywhere, especially in Yeezys. So the next move by Pharrel will be the most crucial in the whole sneaker industry. He took the newly released NMD and completely customize it in his own version.
But hue itself is in reference to colors. As human beings, you have a color.
It wasn't yet his signature shoe, but we were very close to that. To understand the cultural relevance that these new NMDs, dubbed the human races, were having on the sneaker culture will be impossible to describe. You just had to be there. These sneakers were literally it. You had to witness the various sneaker talks, sneaker podcasts about the best shoes of all time, the most hyped, the most groundbreaking. Those were a different beast. Nowadays, their value basically plummeted, but back in the days, you couldn't find any colorway for less than $1,000. Or euros. These human races NMDs during the years received a lot of variation on both the upper and the outsole, but still these shoes were always loved. Up until their last collaboration in 2021-2022, they were still selling out everywhere. And at the end of his pink beach capsule, was a beach capsule, Pharrel dropped a bombshell, his own signature sneaker. Not like the NMDs, which was a reworked version of a normal NMD. It was his own signature sneaker, kind of. We are talking about the tennis HU. This silhouette was always meant to be a general release. And I remember walking into Foot Locker and JD's and seeing the tennis HU always on stock. So I think it got the attention it deserved. It served its purpose. I've said almost his own silhouette because, as you can see, these were heavily inspired by the Stan Smiths. But still, it was his own signature sneaker. 2017, we see the most insane run-up of releases by Pharrell and Adidas up to date. After introducing the MD Trail, which was the regular NMD Humanraces with the trail outsole, it's wrong to call them NMD Humanraces, I know that, just bear with me for a minute. After introducing these NMD's trails, the most expensive and insane collaboration up to date was just waiting around the corner. An insane collaboration between Adidas, Pharrel, Colette and Chanel, a pair of Pharrel NMDs with both his name and Chanel attached. All of that released in a special pop-up held by Colette.
And the shoes as well, because I was like, what do I put on there? He was like, oh, Chanel Pharrell, of course.
Yeah.
And I was like, I never put my name on a
That's
shoe
true.
that
That's
bold.
true.
And all of these in the absolutely highest hype of the Boost era. This was insane, everybody was talking about that. This was literally what the Nike with Off-White with Louis Vuitton should have been. And after that, he released a NMD with the NERD, Nerd, and Billionaires Boys Club. And if you know Pharrell, this name shouldn't be really vague. This was absolutely a blast for Adidas and Pharrell. This year was literally the best they ever had up until this point. They were on the mouth of everyone. It seemed like they couldn't fail. After this insane year of all-time high, Pharrell toned things down a little bit. In 2018, he released the most controversial yet iteration of the Pharrell's NMDs, the Afro Pack. They basically didn't like the outsole. And also Pharrell released a lot of shoes with the Holy iteration, and those were actually pretty popular. A lot of people really loved the whole tie-dye thing about the shoes. It was also a time where tie-dye was also very popular. So while Pharrell was still walking this fine line between popular sneakers with popular trends, they were still doing very good numbers. He also released the Tennis H2 V2, which wasn't really that great. It was an upgrade on all things on the standard Tennis H2, but it wasn't really that popular. People would still prefer to buy the regular Tennis H2. He also collaborated on new silhouettes like the Boosty Wear, the BYW, and the Solar Glide, which was a running model. Honestly, I always wonder why they never gave him a full-blown Ultra Boost collab. I mean, the numbers were there, the Bape ones were still selling out everywhere. Wonder why they never gave him the chance. Maybe he didn't want to. Still, this collaboration weren't really that successful, but they still gathered a cult following that kept them from going to the outlets, at least in Italy. But let's say that the Solar Glide was basically the standard shoe with some Pharrell branding, which doesn't really spell out a bright future ahead. In 2019, Pharrell released a collaboration with the new 4D technology that didn't really worked out because the model itself was already very expensive, and with the Pharrell brandings, I think it scraped the $500 for a shoe that wasn't that comfortable and with just some little logos of Pharrell, like what they were thinking. Still, he released other NMDs, other Solar Glide, other BYW, but this is beside the point. We can see a pattern here of Adidas taking the branding of Pharrell and just throwing it onto some sneakers, hoping they will get hype for whatever reason. We can also start to see the human-made collaboration coming up these years, but I'm not really talking about that in this video because it can be its own separate things. Just know that sometimes some signature Pharrell models like Pharrell NMDs and the Tennis H2 can be found with the human-made branding. 2020 can be described as a very dark year. Pharrell finally founded the company Humanrace, so now we can start calling the shoes under Humanrace. Before that, it was just a naming convention. It was a way of Pharrel to name his sneakers, but it wasn't really branded like Yeezys or I don't know, the other collaborations. But now they are. The year started with Pharrel releasing a pair of football shoes, boots, and then the floodgates were opened. Literally. I think this was the year where Adidas just wanted to make a fat piece of money from the Pharrel branding. This has to be the most human race slop I have ever seen up to date. And even compiling this video, this was the exact moment where I decided that this was not worth it. I'm not going to name every single shoe of the world collaborations because I'm not naming every single iteration of the collaboration between Adidas and Pharrel, because this year alone I've seen almost 30 plus pairs of sneakers between Adidas and Pharrel, and I'm talking about almost 20 plus different silhouettes. This is insane. And I'm talking about this black period because the pack that always comes to my mind is the Black Future pack. These were all sneakers between Adidas and Pharrel, also standard sneakers like the Stan Smith, the Prime Knit Stan Smith, the Superstars, and a lot of different sneakers, all with some little Humanrace branding. And on top of all of that, there was this normal Adidas NMD, like this one, but with the HU, Humanrace branding, which if you have been following this video at all, you may understand that it doesn't make sense. They already had a silhouette going for that. Why did they need to do that? It doesn't make sense. They also released a pack of T-Rex, the PW Boost, the 0 to 60 SMTs, some other Pharrel NMDs colorway. They also released an eclectic pack with the Continental 80s, the Nissas, and etc. The SC Premier, I think, was one. That, okay, it was an elevated pair of shoes with elevated material that was very, very expensive, honestly. They also released a lot of Climacool sneakers, I think almost 5 models from what I've researched. There were also some unreleased in this period that I'm not going to talk about. But at the end of the thread, what's important about this year? That they saturated the market. As Adidas does best, they decided to just flood the market with Pharrel branded things. And that really hurt the Pharrel collaboration going forward for at least 4 years. They were seen not as hyped anymore, but as something that was almost a sub-brand of Adidas, like Y3 with Yoshi Yamamoto or something like that, but even less hyped because they were regular Adidas models with just some Humanrace branding, and they just costed more. And 2021 was the first real victim of this whole flooded Humanrace market, the Humanrace Saichona. This was a reworked, already existing Adidas model, and he basically took the same midsole, the Future Natural, and just reworked completely the upper and added a fin with the Humanrace branding on the back. I've always been a fan of this model because it's just so cool. I mean, in my opinion, it's not the most comfortable, but it's far from being just some shovelware from Adidas and Pharrel. I think this was very, very cool. If they released it 3 years or even 2 years before the whole fiasco of the 2020, this would have flied off the shelves. Trust me. And yeah, I've been having these for almost 4 years, and I'm always happy to put them on when I have to travel because they are very, very lightweight and you can stuff them everywhere. With that being said, this didn't really had that much of a following, almost none. The most successful colorway was the black one. And this year was also the last year that we would see a standard released Adidas NMD HU with Pharrel, the so mentioned animal print pack. This thing flopped everywhere. Nobody bought them. It was a flop on all front. I don't know what they were thinking. I get the idea. The NMD was absolutely not the right silhouette to do that, but oh well, it is what it is. And after lending a hand with the launch of the NMD S1.
And then another thing that you've debuted a few days ago, the NMD. Have you gave them a wear test?
I worked on it with them.
Okay.
Yeah, we wrestled to get it to this place.
Got it.
And we feel really good about it.
Pharrel released in 2022 the NMD S1 Riot. Was a boot with the NMD S1 midsole. It was very cool. I think it was very futuristic. If it were released today, it would fly off the shelves. But back in the day, with the whole Black Future fiasco and etc., didn't really work out again. Pharrell and Adidas, even though the silhouette was very cool. They also released the NMD S1 Max that still didn't really work out. But a new silhouette enters the rooster. Riding the wave of the popular Adidas Samba, Pharrel released his own version of the Humanrace Samba. That was a standard Adidas Samba with a very long tongue. And these were pretty popular thanks to the whole hype behind the Adidas Samba, but still nonetheless, this was the start of a good thing that Pharrel didn't really let it go, because in 2023 he released another pack of Samba, a new color pack nonetheless, and he released this premium version of Sambas with eco leather. I'm not really a fan of fake leather, you may guys know, but this was pretty popular for all the right reasons. In 2024 the tide starts to regain some traction. Pharrel starts to release models with Humanrace branding with some actual twist into the colorways and the silhouettes, like the Adidas Pro with the Humanrace branding, and another new silhouette is the Adidas 92. This was literally a superstar inflated and saw a moderate success. Not that much, but still it sold out. It didn't spark any wave on the internet like the previous models did, but nonetheless it was a success. And this also introduces the new wave that Pharrel brought to the table with the new year 2025 and 2026 that really defined the new Humanrace's designs. With the release of the Humanrace Jellyfish, the Watermoth and the Vario Flat Earther, Pharrel demonstrated that not only he's going back with quality over quantity, but he also still understands the market and the trends. He came back into the brand, basically, and most of all, he still understands how to drive hype into the release. The Adidas Jellyfish was one of the most anticipated and hype released of the last 5 years for Pharrel. It was insane. So as stated before, I won't talk also about human-made collaboration because I don't really think they qualify as Pharrel's collaboration, but they did some models together. So overall, I've been a fan of Pharrel for a long time, and the collaboration between him and Adidas, I still wish someday to buy a Pharrel NMD Humanrace, just to add to the collection, honestly. And I hope Adidas won't misuse the name Humanrace ever again, even though with its past records they still could. I'm talking about the Black Future. But without Kanye, Adidas found themselves in a very bad spot. They're very relying on Pharrel, Bad Bunny, Cloth, Bape, and etc. to keep the momentum going. That gives me a lot of hope, honestly. So yeah, let's see how this video will age. And yeah, that was it. Enjoy.